How to find strategic buyers for your business. A strategic buyer rarely announces its interest before it sees a well-positioned opportunity. The most valuable acquirers are often operating in adjacent markets, building capacity, seeking new customers, or solving a supply chain constraint. Knowing how to find strategic buyers means identifying those commercial motives before your company enters the market, then presenting the opportunity with enough precision to create serious interest without compromising confidentiality. For privately held businesses, this is not a matter of posting a listing and waiting for inquiries. The right buyer may be a regional competitor, an international platform entering the United States, a supplier moving downstream, a customer seeking greater control, or a private equity-backed consolidator with a narrow acquisition mandate. Each has different priorities, approval processes, and valuation logic. A disciplined process is what turns a broad universe into a credible buyer field. Start with the strategic case, not the buyer list. Owners often begin with a familiar question: who might buy us? A better starting point is, what would a buyer gain by owning this business rather than partnering with it, supplying it, or competing against it? The answer should be specific. A food distributor may offer a strategic acquirer established routes, supplier relationships, cold chain capability, or access to a customer segment that would take years to build. A technology business may provide proprietary workflows, recurring revenue, data assets, or a foothold in a regulated market. A manufacturing company may represent scarce capacity, technical know-how, customer certifications, or a location that shortens delivery times. This strategic case becomes the foundation for buyer selection and transaction positioning. It also prevents an owner from defining the market too narrowly. A company that appears to be a local services business may be highly relevant to a national operator seeking density in a particular city, or to an overseas group looking for an established operating platform. Define the buyer profile before conducting outreach. A long list of potential acquirers is not a buyer strategy. The objective is a qualified group of parties with a credible reason, financial capacity, and organizational ability to transact. A strong buyer profile considers 4 factors: strategic fit, financial capacity, transaction appetite, and execution feasibility. Strategic fit asks whether the acquisition advances an identifiable corporate objective. Financial capacity addresses not only enterprise value, but also the buyer's ability to fund working capital, earn-outs, integration costs, and cross-border requirements. Transaction appetite examines whether the company has completed acquisitions before, has active capital available, or has publicly stated expansion ambitions. Execution feasibility considers whether regulatory, cultural, ownership, or management issues could prevent a deal from closing. The weighting of these factors depends on the mandate. An owner pursuing a full exit may prioritize certainty, speed, and cash at closing. A founder seeking growth capital or a partial sale may place greater value on the buyer's operating resources, market access, and willingness to retain management. The highest headline valuation is not automatically the strongest strategic outcome. Look beyond direct competitors. Direct competitors are usually the first names on any buyer list. They can be compelling acquirers because they understand the sector, recognize operational value, and may achieve immediate synergies. They can also present risks. Confidentiality concerns are greater, diligence can become intrusive, and their interest may be driven by defensive motives rather than a willingness to pay for growth. The most productive buyer universe typically extends across adjacent sectors. Suppliers may seek margin expansion or greater channel control. Customers may seek supply security or vertical integration. Companies with complementary products may want access to the same customer base. Larger operators may need a regional platform, while international businesses may seek a local management team and a proven route to market. Financial sponsors should not be excluded simply because the objective is to find strategic buyers. A private equity firm with an existing portfolio company in the sector can behave much like a strategic acquirer. Its portfolio company may have defined synergies, an experienced integration team, and a clear rationale for acquiring a high-quality add-on business. Use intelligence to identify real acquisition intent. The difference between a speculative name and a qualified prospect is evidence. Buyer research should move beyond company size and sector labels to examine signals of intent. Relevant signals include recent acquisitions, geographic expansion, executive hiring, new financing, changes in ownership, capacity investments, product launches, and stated growth priorities. A buyer that has acquired 3 regional operators in the past 2 years deserves greater attention than a larger company with no acquisition history. Similarly, a strategic buyer that has announced expansion in Southeast Asia may be more relevant to a Singapore-based business than a domestic competitor with stronger current revenue. Ownership structure matters. Public companies may have transparent strategy statements but longer approval cycles. Family-owned groups can be decisive and patient, although relationship building may be essential. Private equity-backed companies may have acquisition funding and urgency, but their valuation discipline can be firm. Cross-border acquirers may pay a premium for a well-run market entry platform, yet require more time to address legal, tax, and post-close operating matters. AI-supported research can improve the speed and breadth of this work by mapping corporate groups, identifying comparable acquisitions, and detecting relationships that conventional searches miss. It does not replace transaction judgment. The final buyer list still requires human assessment of reputation, decision-making authority, cultural fit, and the likelihood of a serious process. How to find strategic buyers without losing confidentiality. Confidentiality is an asset in a sale process, especially when employees, customers, suppliers, and competitors could react to premature disclosure. A broad public campaign may generate volume, but it can also weaken control over sensitive information and attract parties with limited intent. A structured, confidential process begins with an anonymous opportunity profile. This document communicates the company's sector, scale, geography, investment highlights, and transaction rationale without revealing its identity. It should be persuasive enough to secure a conversation while withholding the information that would expose the business. Interested parties should be screened before receiving identifying materials. At a minimum, they should demonstrate a credible acquisition rationale, appropriate financial capacity, and an ability to maintain confidentiality. A non-disclosure agreement is necessary, but it is not the only safeguard. Outreach should be sequenced, information should be released in stages, and access to detailed financial or customer data should be controlled. For competitor outreach, process design is particularly important. It may be appropriate to delay disclosure of certain commercial details until interest is confirmed, or to use an intermediary to establish whether a buyer is genuinely prepared to engage. The goal is not secrecy for its own sake. Build competition around a credible narrative. Strategic buyers pay for future value when they can see a realistic path to capturing it. That requires more than historical financial statements. The business must be framed as an opportunity with a defined strategic role in the buyer's plan. A compelling transaction narrative connects the company's capabilities to the acquirer's objectives. For example, an HR services firm may offer a buyer a recurring revenue client base in a fragmented market. A hospitality platform may provide brand presence, operating expertise, and expansion locations. A specialized manufacturer may give an acquirer access to certified production, long-standing customer relationships, and a faster route into a new vertical. The narrative must remain credible. Buyers will test customer concentration, management dependence, margin stability, capex needs, contractual protections, and integration complexity. Attempting to conceal weaknesses usually erodes confidence later. A better approach is to identify material issues early, explain their context, and show how they can be managed within the transaction structure. Competition should be managed carefully. Inviting too many weakly matched parties can create noise and distract management. Inviting too few can reduce negotiating leverage. The right process is targeted, phased, and designed to bring several credible buyers to the table on a similar timetable. Prepare for the questions that determine value. The buyer search becomes more effective when the seller is transaction ready. Acquirers move faster and bid with greater conviction when key information is organized, consistent, and supported by evidence. Before outreach, owners should be able to explain normalized earnings, revenue quality, customer retention, management roles, working capital requirements, and the growth plan. They should also define their preferred transaction parameters, full or partial sale, desired rollover ownership, management retention, acceptable earnout exposure, and timing expectations. This preparation is especially important in cross-border processes. International buyers may need clarity on local licenses, tax treatment, foreign ownership rules, workforce practices, and the practical role of the founder after closing. Strong local knowledge can reduce uncertainty that might otherwise lead to a lower offer or a delayed decision. The 1MA combines AI-driven global buyer discovery with transaction-led market intelligence and regional execution experience in Singapore and Thailand. For owners, the practical advantage is not simply a larger list of names. It is a more disciplined route to qualified capital, strategic fit, and a process designed to protect confidentiality. The best strategic buyer is not necessarily the largest company in the market or the first party to express interest. It is the buyer that sees a clear reason to act, has the capacity to close, and can carry the business forward in a way that supports the outcome you want.